Chapter 6: Women Change the World. The work opportunities available for men and women are not equal. Because of the family and society, a woman has to make many sacrifices. Moreover, many job opportunities are considered to be more relevant for men than women. We will also learn about how women struggle for equality. Getting an education was, and still is, one way in which new opportunities were created for women. Fewer opportunities and rigid expectations. If we are asked to have an image of a nurse, a scientist and a teacher in our mind, the result is a female for nurse and teacher, and a male as a scientist. This is because this is what we commonly see. Moreover, every job requires certain characteristics in a person. A nurse is supposed to be very patient and soft, hence we always expect a nurse to be a female. On the other hand, a scientist is supposed to be extraordinarily intelligent, a trait often associated with males in the society. Presuming some roles for men and some for women is also because of the roles played by girls and women in the family and society. Since people believe in stereotypes, many girls do not get the same encouragement and support from the family for taking up studies in engineering and medical fields. In fact, girls are expected to get married once they finish school. It is important to understand that we live in a society in which all children face pressures from the world around them. Sometimes, these come in the form of demands from adults. At other times, they can just be because of unfair teasing by our own friends. Boys are pressurized to think about getting a job that will pay a good salary. They are also teased and bullied if they do not behave like other boys. James was happy with the results of his Class X board exams. Though his marks in science and maths were not high, he had done well in his favorite subjects, history and languages. When his parents saw his report card, however, they did not look pleased at all. Learning for change. Going to school is an important part of our lives. When we see more and more children joining school, it seems to be very natural to go to school. But in the earlier days, the skill of reading and writing were known only to a few. There were also lots of superstitions attached to educating women. Children used to learn the skills and activities in which their family was engaged. There was extreme gender bias in the earlier days. In communities where the male child was taught to read and write, girls were not allowed to learn the alphabet. Even in families where skills like pottery, weaving, craft, etc. were taught, the contribution of the females was only supportive and not main. For example, regarding pottery, women collected mud and prepared the earth for pots. But they did not operate the wheel. Hence they were not seen as potters. Many new ideas about education and learning emerged in the 19th century. Schools became more common. Many communities that were earlier not sending their children to school started sending them to school for formal education. There was lot of resistance regarding educating women. With a lot of effort of many women and men, schools were open for girls. Females struggled to read and write. Let us read about the experience of Rash Sundari Devi, 1800 to 1890, who was born in West Bengal, some 200 years ago. At the age of 60, she wrote her autobiography in Bangla. Her book titled Amar Jeeban is the first known autobiography written by an Indian woman. Rash Sundari Devi was a housewife from a rich landlord's family. At that time, it was believed that if a woman learned to read and write, she would bring bad luck to her husband and become a widow. Despite this, she taught herself how to read and write in secret, well after her marriage. I would start working at dawn, and I would still be at it until well beyond midnight. I had no rest in between. I was only 14 years old at the time. I came to nurture a great longing. I would learn to read and I would read a religious manuscript. I was unlucky. In those days women were not educated. Later, I began to resent my own thoughts. What is wrong with me? Women do not read. How will I do it? Then I had a dream. I was reading the manuscript of Chaitanya Bhagavat, the life of a saint. Later in the day, as I sat cooking in the kitchen, I heard my husband say to my eldest son, Vipin, I have left my Chaitanya Bhagavat here. When I ask for it, bring it in. He left the book there and went away. When the book had been taken inside, I secretly took out a page and hid it carefully. It was a job hiding it, for nobody must find it in my hands. My eldest son was practicing his alphabets at that time. I hid one of them as well. At times, I went over that, trying to match letters from that page with the letters that I remembered. I also tried to match the words with those that I would hear in the course of my days. With tremendous care and effort, and over a long period of time, I learned how to read. After learning the alphabet, Rash Sundari Devi was able to read the Chaitanya Bhagavat. Through her own writing, she also gave the world an opportunity to read about women's lives in those days. Rash Sundari Devi wrote about her everyday life experiences in details. She did not have a moment's rest, no time even to sit down and eat. Schooling and education today, both boys and girls attend school in large numbers. Yet, as we will see, there still remain differences between the education of boys and girls. India has a census every 10 years, which counts the whole population of the country. It also gathers detailed information about the people living in India, their age, schooling, what work they do, and so on. We use this information to measure many things, like the number of literate people, and the ratio of men and women. Gender preference is prevalent in the field of education too. Women receive little schooling. This is because of the widely held view that women will get married and then take care of their home and perform domestic duties. Their educational expenditure is considered as a burden on the financial resources of the family. In the traditional Indian society, girls were not allowed to go to school. They stayed at home, helped with domestic chores, and took care of the younger siblings. However, with changing time, gradually more and more girls are getting education. The literacy rate of females in India has therefore improved. Literacy rate is the total percentage of the population of an area at a particular time aged 7 years or above who can read and write with understanding. In 1961, 40% of males were literate, minus 15% of females were literate. In 2011, to 82.14% of males were literate, minus 65.46% of females were literate. This means that the proportion of both men and women who are now able to read and have at least some amount of schooling has increased. But, as you can also see, the percentage of the male group is still higher than the female group. The gap has not gone away. Providing equal schooling facilities to children from all communities and classes, and particularly girls, still continues to be a challenge in our country. Here is a table that shows the percentage of girls and boys who leave schools from different social groups including scheduled caste, SC, and scheduled tribe, ST. You have probably noticed in the above table that SC and ST girls leave school at a rate that is higher than the category all girls. This means that girls who are from Dalit, SC, and Adivasi, ST, backgrounds are less likely to remain in school. The 2011 census also found that the rate at which Muslim girls leave school is higher than that of Dalit, officially called scheduled caste or SC, and Adivasi, officially called scheduled tribe or ST, girls. While a non-Muslim girl stays in school for around 4 years, a Muslim girl leaves school as early as after 3 years. There are several reasons why children from Dalit, Adivasi and Muslim communities leave school. Lack of proper schools and teachers. In many parts of our country, especially rural and poor areas, proper schools and regular teachers are not available. Inaccessible. If the school is not close to people's homes, and buses or vans are not available for transport, people will not be willing to send their girls to school. Unaffordable, many people are poor and unable to afford the cost of education. In such cases, boys are given preference and girls are retained at home. Discrimination and resultant harassment by teachers and classmates is also a reason for dropping out. An example is the Dalit writer Om Prakash Valmiki's experience. Women's movement. Now women and girls have a right to go to school. There is a change in the scenario that existed many years ago. This change has not happened overnight. It is a result of the continuous struggle and efforts by women individually and collectively. This struggle is called the women's movement. Many women's organizations from different parts of the country as well as individual women are a part of this movement. The movement has the support of many men also. The diversity, passion and efforts of those involved makes it a very vibrant movement. Different strategies have been used to spread awareness, fight discrimination and seek justice. Here are some glimpses of this struggle. Campaigns to oppose discrimination and seek justice are an integral part of the women's movement. The impact of the campaigns is as under: passing of new laws. New laws have been passed as a result of the campaigns. In 2006, a law regarding domestic violence was passed. This law gave legal protection to women who faced physical and mental torture at home. Guidelines against sexual harassment. In 1997, the Supreme Court passed guidelines to protect women from sexual harassment at workplace and within educational institutions. Amendment in dowry laws. In the 1980s, for example, women's groups across the country spoke out against dowry deaths, cases of young brides being murdered by their in-laws or husbands, greedy for more dowry. Women's groups spoke out against the failure to bring these cases to justice. They did so by coming onto the streets, approaching the courts, and by sharing information. Eventually, this became a public issue in the newspapers and society, and the dowry laws were changed to punish families who seek dowry. Raising awareness. The first step in addressing any issue is to raise public awareness about it. The women's movement did the same and spread the message through street plays, songs and public